I guess why there's two Professor Emeritus here is you have to be old enough to be a fan of the Beat Generation, which are not necessarily the most fashionable group these days in academia. Nonetheless, I'm not going to thank Linda. She seems to get embarrassed by that. Though I do want to say something for Indiana. I was just sitting there and realized I've spent half my life in Indiana, which is quite shocking when I thought that. But my son is a Hoosier, meaning he was born in Mishawaka at the hospital there. Anyway, so that's something. The effect Indiana's had on the culture, even the popular culture, in the 20th century, more or less, has actually been very great and diverse. And I could come up with more names and more reasons, but the three left to my mind were Cole Porter from Peru, however they say it there. I've been there, saw his house. He affected American culture through his songs in a big way. And then, of course, Kenneth Rexroth, who affected American literature in an equally big way. And the most contemporary name I came up with is David Letterman, who has also affected American culture in a big way. In fact, it could only have been somebody from Indiana who made stupid pet tricks. Something people would tolerate. Anyway, I am, like everybody else, going to read a paragraph from Rexroth's prose and his an autobiographical novel, which I suppose in some ways is like him, meaning to call a book, a memoir, an autobiographical novel is just being honest and straightforward. Because a lot of people, either intentionally or unintentionally fictionalize their lives when they write a memoir or anything. And it's the earliest thing I could find in the book. I read this book in 1968, right after it came out, and hadn't looked at it till all of this came up. About his, the birth of his consciousness. Consciousness is a funny thing. A lot of people still try to, psychologists and biologists, and everybody's still hunting for how consciousness comes about. The oddity is in literature. Joyce is often brought up. James Joyce is a practitioner insofar as Portrait of an Artist starts, he's crawling under tables. It's usually done through wordplay, piano, apologize, pull out my eyes, where wordplay, but I don't really think wordplay is entirely conscious. But Rexroth, as has been hinted at, didn't spend too long in South Bend, a month or so, before they moved down the road to Bell Park. And this is about one of the earliest memories he seems to conjure up. And I thought it was sort of spot on, even though obviously it's written at a later date. But I can imagine his freezing this scene in his mind is actually, conscious and directed. So, anytime. I was about 4. I first saw my grandfather. He was sitting at a scrub oak table in the buttery, that dark, musty closet off the kitchen in a house that smelled of old people. A little window, high on the wall and covered with a spotted and peeling imitation stained glass cow, cast a dim light on an old man with immense mustaches eating a great stack of gray buckwheat pancakes and black sour gravy. He informed me that I was a very bright little boy, and if I minded my father and mother and didn't eat too much candy, I'd become a great man. And then he returned to the gloomy